Hopping in fast.
Hopping in fast. Welcome back
to our Valentine's Day special that we are going to keep so short.
So short.
And I actually just realized, do we do an intro for this, or do you just want to like pee in the wind?
I don't want to pee in the wind. I can't believe you just said that.
I say that all the time. I'm shocked you have not heard that yet.
No, I've not heard you say that.
Lee, in honor of Valentine's Day, I thought that we could talk a little bit about love.
About love on Valentine's Day. Yes. Well, why not?
Have you ever seen the show Couples Therapy?
Never.
Have you heard of it?
Never.
Oh, God. Okay, so we're going to have to do a very quick summary.
Okay.
Couples Therapy is a show that follows 4 couples over 6 months of weekly treatment with a gal named Dr. Orna Guralnick. I don't know how to pronounce her last name.
Dr. Orna.
She just goes by Orna.
Okay.
And she's a brilliant therapist.
Got it.
And I started watching season 1, where she started with her first 4 couples. And when I was watching it, she had a really interesting sentence. So basically, the guy has some narcissistic tendencies where he doesn't take responsibility for anything. The gal is a big people pleaser, and they had been in and out of therapy for years as a result. And they told Orna, we've only ever made it like 4 sessions with a therapist before, because they always end up, because of the husband, he's like, I have no time for this. I know better. So basically, in the middle of one of these sessions, Annie, who is the wife, asks Mao, who is the husband, to not be dismissive when she shares her thoughts with him. But Mao just kind of shrugs it off and is like, that's your fault. That's not on me. That's your experience. That's not me putting it on to you. And in response to that, Orna, the doctor, said that in order for relationships to work, each partner has to be willing to, quote, change something fundamental in themselves. And I thought that's a Subtext episode on love. So my question is, do you agree with that assessment?
Can we back up just a second?
Yes.
Okay. What do you make of this sort of cultural specimen?
Well, I want to know what you thought about that. That's why I wrote the question earlier.
No. So my question is there just a public spectacle? Is this voyeuristic?
To be watching people's therapy sessions?
Yeah, it seems a little voyeuristic to me.
I don't know what that word means.
Well, you know what voyeurism is, or do you? You know
Heard the word, but
you know what a peeping Tom is.
Yeah. Oh my God.
Okay. Peeping Tom is a voyeur.
Oh, so like
you're sneakily looking where you ought not be looking to get some sort of base pleasure out of it. And this almost strikes me as voyeuristic. The premise of the show.
I think I agree. And I still watched it. If it's any consolation, I watch it because I think Orna is brilliant. Have you not listened to Esther Perel's podcast? It's the same thing.
No.
So does that feel voyeuristic to you as well? Without the visual, where she does couples therapy sessions?
I don't know. I'd have to listen, I guess. But I don't know. There's just something about that. It's also like, maybe I'm getting off a little on a tangent, but sometimes when people ask about my personal relationship with Jesus, it's like, you wouldn't ask me about what lovemaking with my wife is like. And my relationship with Jesus is just as personal and intimate in, obviously not in a sexual way, but in a sort of intimate way, which I don't want you asking me about that. Or I feel uncomfortable. We ought to be really close if you're asking me that kind of question. And it's almost like if I were to go around talking about it, about either that kind of intimacy with my wife or that kind of or the kind of intimacy that I have with Jesus, it's almost like I would dishonor the relationship by doing so. Mm-hmm. And I wonder to what degree might one dishonor one's own pursuit of healing or reconciliation by doing this in public. But maybe I'm being a grumpy old man. I don't know.
I don't know if you're being grumpy, because the thought occurred to me like around 5 episodes in, where they were having, not Annie and Mal, but another couple were having a very personal, intense argument, and it was very raw. And I thought, do I need to know this about this woman that I've never met before? It really did. It occurred to me too.
Yeah.
So very fair criticism to ask on the overarching meta narrative.
Yeah.
But when you think about
question.
Orna's thoughts, where she says that each person has to be willing to change something fundamental in themselves.
Yeah.
That feels countercultural to me. I know you hate that phrase.
Why don't you say what you think about that first, and then I'll...
I think it feels true.
I thought you might say that you didn't like that.
Oh, fun. I love surprising you.
I thought you might have said that you didn't like that because it is asking someone to give up some integrity about who they are for the sake of love.
That is the tension, isn't it?
Yeah.
I think that if I was keeping things hypothetical, I do think that's where I'd land. But I went straight to my marriage, and it made me realize that there are things that I change because they hurt my husband.
Yeah.
Like when I do certain things or habits that I have, like very early on in our marriage, I tend to be more of a straight shooter, like all the time, where it's like if he says something and he got like a fact or data or something wrong, I would be like, that's not true. And I would say this. But for me, it's because it feels like data in my mind. It's not like on a personal affront to him. But I would do that in front of people. And he would be like, hey, that embarrasses me when it's not an important fact. Like it's just one part of a large story and I'm getting the story right. So you don't have to jump in and like correct me in public. And even though it wouldn't bother me if he did that to me, or when other people fact check me, I actually feel really loved. But for him, he doesn't feel loved. And so for me, I had to change that habit, even though it doesn't like make sense to how I experience life. It is true of how he experiences it. And so I changed myself and changed my habits because that's what makes him feel loved.
Yeah.
And that keeps our relationship in a good flow. Does that make sense?
Absolutely.
So for me, I do think that we have to change fundamentally, but with the qualifier of, I don't believe that in order for me to love someone that they have to change.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I mean, if love is defined more as the pursuit of the good for another person, then that's obviously true. Mm-hmm. Yeah. But yes, I mean, on your question about do we need to change certain things fundamental in ourselves? It certainly, if we mean by something fundamental, we mean certain deep commitments to certain ways of being in the world, then I think it's absolutely true that obviously you're going to have to change certain things that we're called to. I would even say that when we take a marriage vow or you have an implicit vow of friendship with another human being, you've committed yourself to change all along.
So you agree that you do have to change?
Yeah.
Do you have any qualifiers in your head?
Any qualifiers about?
Of where that could become toxic?
Well, yeah, that can't be an ultimate non-qualified statement.
True.
Right? So because we all have certain commitments, convictions, vows we've taken that there is a point at which if I change certain things about myself, then I have given up myself.
Yes.
And so I think, vows, commitments are really important. Mm-hmm. And so let's make them, and to the degree that we can keep them. Mm-hmm. And so, so it's always qualified.
Always qualified.
Yeah.
Because there are forms of self-betrayal, which we've talked about a lot on the show, that we're not talking about. But then I don't know, I think when she said that, I was like, yeah, that feels kind of against the grain of culture, which is like, don't ever change, like you're perfect as you are, whatever. And it's in a sense true, but then in a sense, like if you want to be married to someone or in relationships with messy people, you're kind of always having to change.
I mean, that does bring up that line that I hate about God loves you just as you are.
Tell me why.
Because, well, first of all, let's say it's obviously true. That's so obvious as to be non-debatable on the one hand.
Yes.
That God loves you just as you are.
Yes.
So, okay. So, And there are some people that need to be told that and need to know that because they've been so beaten down by toxic forms of religious conviction and so forth and so on. And so certainly there are people that need to be told that and told that and told that over and over again until they believe it. But a lot of times the way I see that line being used, it's as if to say, God loves you just as you are, so stay exactly as you are. And I'm kind of like, I don't want anybody to tell me that. I want to be told, you are loved just as you are. So come on, let's keep living into what it means to be fully alive and thus the glory of God.
Yes.
And to learn to be fully alive and thus the glory of God means I have to change a heck of a lot and work at changing a heck of a lot about the things I can change and leaning into trusting in the power of God to change the things I cannot change.
I love that.
So, yeah.
Yeah, saying that God loves you just as you are is not an excuse to stay as you are, but it gives you safety to change and grow into becoming better.
Right.
I love that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I thought you were about to say that you disagreed with that, and I was like, Lee, are we about to have our first disagreement? Although I do think we had a disagreement about billionaires on the show, but I can't remember now what it was.
Yeah.
Okay, well, to talk about love, and we're going to go through these so fast.
Okay.
I pulled together a couple of quotes from different scholars, theologians, etc., in their descriptions of love, and I want to hear what you think about them. Paul Tillich. Have you read Paul Tillich?
Yes.
Okay.
Some. Yes.
So curious what you feel about him. He famously has said that the first duty of love is to listen.
Why do we always have to give a list of priorities and say first? Can't we just say one of the duties of love is to listen? That like taps me as a perfectionist when people will say, what's your favorite such and so? And I'm thinking, don't ever ask me that stupid question because I'll never give you an answer. Just say, what's something that you like about such and so? And so, Paul Tillich, don't tell me the first duty of love.
Oh my God.
One of the duties of love is to listen. Absolutely, yes. And
a primary duty of love
is to listen. Yes, I agree.
You do agree with that. I do as well. It's one of my favorites. I actually really like Paul Tillich.
Yeah.
And it does feel on brand for him.
Yeah.
Stanley Hauerwas, who you love. He famously has said, love is not all you need.
That's so classic, Stanley.
He's a little grouchy when it comes to love.
Stanley, bless you. Stanley's a little grouchy when it comes to most everything.
And he has said, I read a huge interview with him where this quote came from. And he was talking about how his students asked if they would officiate their wedding. And one of the students had him read 1 Corinthians 13. And he said he rolled his eyes. And I don't know if it was in the wedding speech or just to them privately, but he said that 1 Corinthians 13 is saying that you have to love the person even if you're married to them.
That also sounds like Stanley.
So yes. Stanley is very demystified when it comes to love and the sentiments around love. What's your take on that?
Yeah, I mean, he hates sentimentalism. And so much of American, Western culture notions of love are sentimentalizing love.
Quickly, how would you define sentimental?
It's about feeling, and it's about emotion, and it's about stirring up feeling and emotion, as opposed to the work of love.
The actual doing.
Of love. Yeah.
Yes.
And, it's like another kind of parallel to this, Richard Hays's famous book, Moral Vision of the New Testament, when he, and Richard's a fantastic New Testament scholar, and Stanley's a theologian, not a biblical scholar, but Hays is a New Testament scholar, and he says, look, you can't reduce, what the New Testament says to the idea of love. And he actually comes up with 3 other metaphors that he says you should hold together: community, cross, and new creation. And he says that's a much better complex to hold together, the message of the New Testament, than love. But again, a lot of it just comes down to what do you mean by love, right?
Which is what I want to talk about. What do you mean by love?
I think I alluded to it earlier. I think it's the work of seeking the concrete, specific good of another person.
Hmm.
And oftentimes, at its gifted or blessed moments, it's accompanied by what we might call, if it's a life partner, it's accompanied by romantic feelings. But the romantic feelings are a sort of serendipitous gift, I think, as opposed to being the heart of what it's about.
Great summary.
Thank
you. Stanley Hauerwas really informed one of my professors in grad school who also is not sentimental at all. And I think I always struggled with the harshness around it, maybe just because my personality tends to be more emotional and sensitive and warm. And my marriage is very warm and sentimental in that way. And we've been married now for 10 years. So that's a long time to still, like, I wouldn't say that we're like, don't take that to mean that we're like on the notebook every day or whatever. But we have a very classically romantic love. And I think that whenever that was pushed up against, I was like, hey, ours isn't any less than just because we're sappy with each other. But I think the way you just described it, which is that the sentimentalization or whatever, those emotions and feelings being like a bonus factor to the actual work of love does feel true.
Yeah.
Because that's not what we rely on at the end of the day when hard times come. But I am grateful it's there.
Yeah.
And I'm not going to act like I'm not.
For sure. No, it's a very sweet gift.
We're both artists.
Yeah.
So I think it's just part of it. Last quote, and then we'll be done. From Simone. Is it Simone Weil?
That's the way I pronounce it.
That's how I've always pronounced it, too. She has this great quote.
For those who don't know, it's spelled Weil.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And for a long time, when I had just read her work, I thought it was Wheel. But then I heard it by a professor said Vey, and I'm sticking with it.
That's what I would stick with.
She says, love is not consolation, it is light. What are your thoughts around that? Love is not consolation is a hot take.
Well, certainly sometimes we want love to be consolation. And, we just had this week, an episode come out with Kurt Thompson, the psychiatrist, Christian psychiatrist, and he talks about we come into the world looking to be seen, soothed, safe, and secure, and that we're neurobiologically wired for that. And this is what it means to connect healthily with another human being. And so certainly consolation would be a part of being seen and soothed, But I think that what I would make up that Simone Weil is saying there is that if you stick with a long-lasting love relationship, it must always go beyond simply being comforted. If all I want out of a partner is to constantly be consoled without sometimes being challenged and pushed and even rebuked, and have certain things revealed that I don't want revealed, then it's not much of a long-term love.
Yes.
And so I think I would guess that's what she's getting at, is that love does mean very painful, difficult things where I have to face myself that might not could happen apart from some sort of long-term committed relationship like that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, that makes sense in the broader context of her writing, probably more what she was getting on it. Because she was she was basically like, don't cry over spilled milk. Like, if you lose these temporal goods, like, there's no consolation for that because it's a good thing to be detached from that. That's at least how I've experienced her writing. And so I wonder if that's more of like, it's not like it's going to like shine light even if it hurts.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Happy Valentine's Day.
So on that happy Valentine's Day, we hope you find no consolation, but plenty of light.
Yes.